Yes.
Yeah, don't speak fast.
Speak slow.
And then maybe like let them know they have questions. Yeah.
Yo creo que la presentación la van a hacer en inglés, pero si tienen alguna duda o algo no quedó muy claro, yo les puedo ayudar a traducir o a hacer preguntas más claras. Entonces, ellas van a hacer un esfuerzo en tratar de hablar despacio para que todos entiendan, pero no tengan ningún tipo de vergüenza si están interesados en aclarar algo, yo les puedo ayudar.
Pero yo me equivoqué, yo pedí
Shira How's the sound? Sound is good. Excellent. All right. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this beautiful conversation with the artist Srimati Shamarani Dasi, the artist behind the beautiful work you see in this show, in this exhibition. So tonight we are going to be exploring the inspiration, the depth, the spirituality, and the stories, the teachings behind some of these beautiful artworks, and how that devotion has shaped her life, her artistic journey, starting from a teenager almost 60 years ago until today. That devotion is still shaping her life. Her work, it doesn't just depict beauty. It reveals a vision of the spiritual world, of the possibility for love and relationship with the Supreme Lord, with God, in transcendental, loving emotions. So, very excited for today's discussion. The schedule will be, we'll begin with a music presentation of traditional kirtan, which is prayers or hymns sung in Sanskrit. But actually, the names of God, the holy name of God, has no language. That's in the Gopal and Hari. As we all may have heard, the names, the holy names of God are unlimited. And all over the world, in many different cultures, people worship and connect with God in different ways, with different names. So tonight we're going to have a special flavor, which is from India, which is from the heartland of India. It's considered the heartland there. It's called Vrindavan. So that is where these chants and these pastimes, these stories come from. So after the kirtan for about 10-15 minutes, then we'll begin our talk. It will be a 1-hour interview and discussion together. And after that, we have a short movie we'll show on the screen here, a short documentary film. And after that, we'll have plenty of time for questions and more discussion with all of you. And after that, we'll have a closing prayer, more chanting, and dinner if you'd like. We invite all of you to stay and honor the delicious dinner that we have prepared for you. So, I believe that's the schedule. I'd like to ask my god sister and one of my dear friends, Yashoda, to come and just speak a few words to welcome this beautiful group for this talk tonight.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Yashoda. Estuve hablando con la profesora Thompson y ella nos dijo que ustedes están en un nivel mediano de inglés y que van a tratar de seguir la presentación porque ellos van a hacer su esfuerzo en hablar lentamente, pero vamos también a abrir el espacio para preguntas y respuestas durante la presentación. Si alguien quiere aclarar algún punto, pueden levantar la mano y podemos ayudarles. Aparte de eso, quería dar unas palabras para presentarme y también para presentar a Shamarani. Como ella dijo, esta sesión va a llevarnos a la profundidad de la práctica. Shamarani ha estado practicando esta forma de vida desde que es una adolescente, 17 años, 18, 17 años, y desde entonces ha acompañado sus prácticas también con su talento de la pintura. Entonces vamos a empezar la presentación con algunas oraciones y cantos que se basan en los nombres de Dios. Los nombres de Dios son nombres propios, es una forma de adorar a Dios originaria de India, pero realmente es universal y son mantras y meditaciones que nos llevan y nos conectan con un mundo espiritual. Esa es la base de esta filosofía y la base de nuestras enseñanzas. Nuestras enseñanzas nos indican que todos somos almas espirituales y por eso la enseñanza conecta a través de generaciones. Si ustedes vienen a nuestro templo, que está acá en Design District, van a ver que hay personas de todo tipo de origen. Yo originalmente soy de Venezuela, pero hay gente de Colombia, de India, de Norteamérica, de Europa, porque respetamos mucho la universalidad y también el origen de lo que realmente somos. Somos almas espirituales en servicio a Dios. Y eso es lo que estamos tratando de transmitir y enseñar. Y la historia de vida de Shamarani Didi es muy inspiradora porque ella ha usado todos sus talentos y todo su regalo y todo su servicio para entregarnos estas maravillosas pinturas que son una ofrenda de su corazón para el mundo. Así que, por favor, si tienen dudas, preguntas, ella siempre es muy abierta para compartir su experiencia en el camino de Bhakti Yoga y para guiar a todo aquel practicante que quiera también incorporar el mantra y las enseñanzas a su vida. Así que no tengan ningún tipo de timidez, porque aquí aceptamos cualquier tipo de respuesta. La idea es despertar esa curiosidad y esa tendencia natural en servir y amar a Dios, solo que con otro tipo de lección o otro tipo de instrucción. Sí.
Buenas noches.
Buenas
Tengo una
noches.
pregunta. Esto es como... yo estuve leyendo como libros de Osho.
Ajá.
¿Es de lo mismo? ¿Tiene que ver con eso?
Okay, her first question is if this is related to the Osho teachings, because she's reading some of that. Osho?
Osho.
I don't know anything about him.
Okay. Ella no conoce a Osho, pero vamos a hablar entonces de lo que es el Bhakti Yoga y después de lo que escuches, si tienes alguna pregunta la podemos aclarar. Sí. Shamarani.
Okay, how did you become Krishna?
I think we can start with the program and
Well, actually, the first half of the program, after the chanting, is simply Q&A.
Okay.
So she's going
Okay.
to ask that very question.
Okay, perfect. En la primera mitad del programa vamos a hacer preguntas y respuestas y ella va a cubrir esa pregunta. Ok, gracias.
Hare Krishna. I'll open with a prayer to all of our spiritual guardians and spiritual masters on the path of devotion. Om Adhar Shrivasadi Gora Bhaktarinda. Now we'll chant, and I welcome you to chant after me. We'll do call and response. Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare Govinda, Him being the source of all, Supreme Father, He is the one who gives the eternal and complete satisfaction and joy. Govinda Bolo. Govinda Bolo Hari Gopala Bolo. Govinda Bolo. What does it mean? Man is mind. Tra means liberate. Liberation of your mind. So we put our heart and mind in this great mantra. Just like all the colors are inside the sunlight. So this name of Krishna is like this transcendental spiritual ray of light, all encompassing. Any holy name of God is inside this name. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare place your hands over your heart and we'll close. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Hari Bol. And you see, this kirtan is depicted in some of the paintings here. Shri Radhe, Hare Krishna.
What's your name back there? Who asked that question?
My name is Jorge.
Oh, Jorge, right.
So I think that's a great place to start this discussion after we're all warmed up and connecting with this beautiful culture. We're ready to hear about a little bit about your inspiration and journey. Yesterday in the talk, you were speaking a little bit about your artistic journey. As a child, you were already naturally talented and interested in art and always drawing. But then after you met your guru,
Can I just correct that for a minute? I was always interested in art, but I wasn't talented. Just before I met my spiritual master, at my college, we had an art exhibit where everyone put up one of their paintings. And so I brought my friend, and he said, "Which one is yours?" And I was trying to be humble. So I said, "Which one is the worst one?" And he picked mine. But you're right that I did like one. And I did try it.
So that was up to the point of meeting your spiritual master, your guru. So now to Jorge's question, which was, how did you become transformed from an ordinary teenager starting your freshman year at New York City College studying art and art history and protesting the Vietnam War and normal life, and then suddenly what happened? How did this happen?
Normal life in the 60s, that's what it was about. Revolting against the Vietnam War. Okay, that was one war. But nowadays, there's so many wars. And it's useless to carry the pickets because they're head-on in their war. And killing and mutually killing. But anyway, back then, because as a member of the 1960s teenagers, I would also dabble in psychedelic drugs, which, you know, they do tell you that you're God, the drugs do, and you think that you're creating everything that's happening. So, in that mood, I went downtown to see a friend. I don't know how many of you are familiar with New York City, but there is a big park called Tompkins Square Park, where in those days, refugees from many countries used to gather, and sometimes they would play their bongo drums and their flutes. So I had to pass by that park. And my father wasn't very nice. In fact, he threw a big cantaloupe at my head just before I left the house. And I thought, well, this person could not be my father. There must be a father. And also, from the musicians of the day, Peter, Paul, and Mary, Joan Baez, all talking about another world of peace and magic. So I was also looking for that at the time. The perfect combination. And then I was going through the park to meet a friend who lived on the other side of the park. And in the park, there was our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who brought the Krishna consciousness movement from India, from the holy land of Vrindavan, where Krishna appeared 5,000 years ago. God appeared in this planet 5,000 years ago. So there he was, chanting, just like we were doing now, but there was no harmonium then, because it was just the beginning of the Hare Krishna movement in America. So there was no mridanga, like Manjari was playing, no harmonium. Prabhupada just had this little dim-dim drum, but it sounded mystical. And when I saw him sitting on the Indian rug, I thought, he looks like a genie who just flew down on a magic carpet. And I still think of him that way, even 58 years later, that's today. And so I joined in with the kirtaners. They handed out flyers with the words. And then they rolled up the rug, packed up everything, and went back to their temple. And I had never heard of Hare Krishna before, just like perhaps some of you have never heard of Krishna before. Any of you never heard of Krishna before? Anyone else? Yeah, even Hordy? Wow. Okay, so that's how I was. And nice to see the new guests coming in. Thank you for coming. Have a seat. If there's no seats in the back, there are more seats in the front. And so, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a man appeared before me and said, would you like to go to the temple? And I never heard of the temple, but I said, sure, because I was always looking for new arenas of thought and experience and visuals to go with the mystic times of the 60s. So he took me to the temple. It was in the Lower East Side of New York. And then he, as magically as he appeared, he magically disappeared. And I went in the temple, and there were some young men dressed like, where'd he go? He was here. Magically disappeared. And dressed like him, they were dancing and also chanting Hare Krishna. And then somebody invited me, before that, two of them were speaking with each other, and they called him Swamiji in those days. Swami means master of the senses, like we're driven to follow whatever the senses want, even though we may be sorry later. Swamiji means he has complete control over his senses. So he said, Swamiji just said that when devotees fight, argue, it should be taken as clouds passing by. When clouds pass by, no one takes any notice of them, unless somebody points out, look how pretty they are. So, in other words, just be harmonious. And I thought, well, that's a very good teaching in this day and age of war. So then somebody asked me to go upstairs to his apartment where I was thinking that because I'm God, I created everything that's going on here. And then Prabhupada said, this process is very old, very simple, and sublime. Knock that one out right here. We are eternal, and everything around us is temporary. So we want to make our consciousness go to that eternal realm, which is full of knowledge, unlimited knowledge, unfathomable bliss, and eternal life. Eternal life means without beginning and without end. So I asked him because I was, at that time, I had taken some LSD and I was still feeling the effects. So he asked me, where do I live? And I was thinking, well, I live everywhere because I'm all breathing. He said, do you live near here? So actually I live an hour and a half away, 5 subway changes away. But because of my mentality at the time, I said, oh yes, I live very near. So he said, well good, because then you can come to our classes in the morning. So because such a powerful, self-realized person, whatever he says is going to happen, happens. So I found myself starting the next morning, trekking the 5 train changes, an hour and a half ride, to come to his classes and kirtans every morning and every evening. And then soon after that, he asked somebody to ask me, what talent do I have? And then that's the same story in college. That story is there. So, anyway, the young man told him that I was an artist. So he immediately started giving me Indian prints. I don't know if you've ever seen them. Beautiful little pictures of Krishna and his mother and his friends and his beloveds. And he asked me to copy them. And then he was so kind that even though they were terrible copies and the originals were very beautiful and sweet, he still put them up around his temple for all the guests to see. So that's the beginning. Yes?
Beautiful story, remembrance. So we want to, before we get into hearing more details about some of the specific paintings that are here, I thought we could just learn a little bit more about the history and your artistic and spiritual development. So you mentioned the journey, meeting your spiritual master, and so obviously that's one of your greatest inspirations. But could you speak a little more about your artistic and spiritual, your earliest inspirations behind painting this spiritual art, and earliest influences and inspiration?
Earliest influence, without the S at the end.
Okay.
Earliest inspiration, without the S at the end, is that I was convinced right from the beginning that Srila Prabhupada is not from this world, and he's coming from that land where the Supreme Lord plays as a coward boy with his friends, with his beloved. He has so many loving pastimes with his transcendental mother. So I wanted to please him. So one day, he invited me up to his quarters, where I had been that first day, and showed me on the wall there were about 10 incarnations of Krishna, that is, Krishna's different manifestations, who are also unlimitedly powerful and beautiful. and they come in different ages to help the people of the time to become free from the ocean of death. And I'm requesting you to, if anybody's leaving, to give them some prasadam, a book, a brochure, so that they don't go away empty-handed. Okay, so where am I?
Earliest influences.
Right. So I wanted more connection with him. So he showed me this picture of different incarnations, and in the middle was the incarnation of Krishna called Vishnu, who has 4 arms, and he's standing in the what's called the causal ocean, the ocean of cause. From in that causal ocean, he breathes in and out universes. Now that's pretty major, if somebody can do that. So he asked me to paint that middle one. So I went to the art store, got all the things, the canvas, and he actually invited me to paint in his personal quarters. Another one that he asked me to do is, I'm going to introduce you to another personality, Lord Chaitanya. Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and Radha, Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and Radha is his supreme power. Powerful and power. And she's within him as his unlimited power and energy of joy, and she also comes out of him to enjoy pastimes. So when they combine together, they become a great, Krishna himself takes the form of Lord Chaitanya. That is Krishna and his mercy energy. And out of his mercy, he started the Sankirtan movement. Sankirtan means congregational chanting of the holy names of the Lord. And whereas we have maybe 40 people here, he would have hundreds of thousands. As soon as they heard there was a kirtan, hundreds of thousands immediately joined. 20 drums, so many cymbals, gongs, big whomper cymbals, and fabulous singing. That was my inspiration, because Prabhupada wanted to help the people of the world, starting from New York, who were drowning in an ocean of grief, an ocean of quicksand, of trying to enjoy this material world, struggling in the ocean of material existence. Even if someone's a good swimmer, let them try to swim in the ocean. It's a struggle. So everyone was struggling and trying for happiness and getting more and more into the quicksand. So in order to help them, Srila Prabhupada wanted these paintings, which he said were windows to the spiritual world. And he said they would be like the rain after the drought of mundane art, and everyone would be attracted. So his own main occupation, you could say, was giving classes and translating from the ancient Sanskrit, which is the oldest language. Am I speaking okay slow? Enough to understand things?
Yes.
Because I understand that 90% of the audience here is English is a second language to Spanish, with one Russian. Okay, so translating the ancient Vedic literatures, which are spiritual vibrations put into a book, and just by reading that book, those many volumes of books, the transcendental world comes into the heart, into the eyes, into the ears, and gives solutions, not only gives solutions, but helps the reader to realize solutions. So we have some of those books just outside on the table, and we hope that you will. Oh, do we have a lot of Spanish ones? Adidas? Lots of Spanish too. So we hope you'll all avail yourself of what's out there, or English is there too.
So basically, to understand this art, first of all, is to understand that it's your main inspiration comes from your personal relationship with your spiritual master and your passion for the mission and the vision, and to connect with people through the art, to share the vibration, the message, the teachings, and as you mentioned, the kirtan, through the art, which are mostly were published in his books, as you mentioned.
Yes, and that's very interesting. Srila Prabhupada translated and wrote commentaries on about 70 books, was it? And so, as the books were coming out with their teachings and pastimes of Krishna, like you see here, he wanted to fill up the books with paintings in the beginning of the book, which would, number one, help people to want to buy the book, and number two, the paintings would help the readers to understand. Let's say very, very simple analogy that he gave. You have some information that a man is walking to his house. And then when you see the man walking to his house, you know what kind of man it was, and what kind of house he had, and how he was walking, and what the outside looked like. So he said the paintings, he was always encouraging us by saying that the paintings make the history or the pastimes, the words, more clear. And so he wanted to ensure that they weren't just mental speculation paintings. He said, can I have the book in there? He said that Krishna, you wrote us a letter as artists. Krishna's philosophy must be illustrated, but it must be illustrated, and a lot of my letters from him are here. This is my memoir book. When I met him, since I met him in '66, all the way to 77, and then roaming around looking for somebody like Prabhupada to help me get through not having the physical presence of him, until I met his spiritual successor, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, who actually he's responsible for a lot of the paintings around the room. So what else I was inspired by is, as his books were coming out, not only did he keep us off the streets, so to speak, by requesting me and a few other artists that came after me to fill up each book with about 7 paintings in each book. So we had to read the manuscripts before the books came out. Obviously, you can't just put a picture in the book after it comes out. So, being a lazy person, I might not have read so much, but being forced to pick out pictures from the unpublished manuscripts, I was an avid reader, and that also inspired me with the urge to make the books into
So that's on the spiritual and inspiration side. Now, a little bit about your artistic inspiration. So you mentioned that Srila Prabhupada brought with him traditional Indian posters or prints, and that helped inspire you artistically. But what of any other Western representational artists might have inspired your style?
Right, so in the beginning, I was mostly inspired by the, as Manjari mentioned, the folk Indian art. How many of you have been to India? Or perhaps you've seen Indian prints in Indian stores. So they're very sweet and very traditional. That way I can get the mood and what people look like. Because I was quite a New Yorker, so I would naturally make everybody look like Americans. So by having those as references, I could gradually, by osmosis, make the people look Indian, transcendental, with the proper kind of clothing, ancient ornaments. But then once I made this really big mistake, because I was painting Radha and Krishna, and I had the Indian prints, but I wanted it to be more Western, more three-dimensional. So I went to the library to get some references from, what do you call that style? The old masters Renaissance style. And so I got some pictures. Actually, I made a few mistakes. One was, there was this great sage named Narada Muni, and he's a pure devotee of Krishna, and he has the mystic magic powers that he could fly anywhere, even to different planets, and he's chanting Hare Krishna and playing on his veena, which is an Indian stringed instrument with a bowl on the bottom. Chanting Hare Krishna, making so many disciples, bringing millions of people to Krishna. So the first one that I did for Srila Prabhupada, it looked a lot like the original that he gave me. But then I wanted to make it more, because in New York they were showing Mona Lisa. You know the Mona Lisa painting, so famous. And so people would line up like several streets. New York streets are long. Several streets to just get a couple of minutes glimpse of Mona Lisa. So I thought, well, if I could paint like a Renaissance artist, then people would come from so many places to see my pictures of Krishna. They would benefit. So I went to the library and I found this painting of Lord Jesus, where he had muscles, he has muscles, gaunt cheeks, and this robe that comes like diagonally down. So I copied Narada Muni like that, to look a little bit like Lord Jesus, except that he had a veena and clappers to play kirtan. And so I sent it, he asked me to send my paintings to different new temples. Like the temple that I joined in was the first in New York City. After that, there was Los Angeles, San Francisco, Montreal. So I sent it to San Francisco, and they were all in ecstasy, jumping and dancing in the kirtan up to the ceiling. And then Srila Prabhupada came to that temple, and he wrote me this letter that you have made Narada Muni look like a muscle-bearing meat eater. He never ate meat. He was a pure vegetarian. You made him look like a big muscle meat eater. And so he busted my bubble there. Because I was trying to please the people. their senses instead of the senses of Krishna and his pure devotees. Because if I would do that, then automatically everyone would benefit. Because if Krishna is satisfied, who's the source of everyone, then naturally everyone will be satisfied. So he wrote me a letter that there was a Hindu, Indian Hindu, and he was traveling a long distance from one place to the other. And he had to go through this forest. And he was getting hungrier and hungrier. So there was no place other than a Muslim's house. So he was really hungry, and this particular Hindu, he was a Hindu Brahmin, and their rule was you can't eat at the house of anyone but a Hindu. Because then they would offer their food to Krishna, and it would be spiritual. Anyway, he was so hungry. So he ate, he ate at the house of the Muslim. But the Muslim didn't have a lot of food. So then he lamented, as he was continuing on his way, I've lost my caste, and I'm still hungry. So Prabhupada said the moral of this story is that you're not going to get a lot of people to look at the paintings anyway, because, oh, it's a Picasso? Wow, then I'll go and see it. It's a Rembrandt? Oh, I'll go and see it. But I was nobody. So on one hand, you're not going to get people to look at the painting in great popularity, and you'll be missing out on your Krishna consciousness, because you're not anything to please Krishna. So there were a lot of lessons along the way. What?
About Western influences on the positive side.
Yeah, so that, in that one, that was on the negative side. When I didn't know how to use the Western references, like Rembrandt and pre-Raphaelites and all that. But soon after that, I learned very well. Just get the realism from them. Don't change the features of the transcendental personalities. So we got good natural forests, at least the principle, but I tried to make the trees look Indian. And the folds of the garments, so things like that we got, and then we didn't mess it up. Like, for example, if you just gaze around the room, you'll see how we used the Indian art references and the Western art references in harmony.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And for those of you who might have come in a little later, for everyone, that Shamarani Dasi's art has been recognized by the leaders in India, the leaders, cultural leaders, political leaders. Everyone has given the highest honors for this art form, which, as she mentioned, is one of the best examples of blending Indian and Western art traditions together without, as you said, losing the authenticity of the spiritual vision. It's beautiful. Now, what year did you move to India? 1992, 91? You moved permanently at one point.
Yeah, not exactly permanently, unless this is my expansion.
Well, at that time.
Right. So for years I was living in India.
Around 92, maybe.
Actually, first, 92. And the reason that I decided to live in India, I visited a couple of times before that, but I decided to stay because in 1992, I met my other spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, who was a very intimate friend of Srila Prabhupada, and also an intimate follower of Srila Prabhupada. And he was also a self-realized soul. That was my experience. so that whenever you hear him speak, just like Srila Prabhupada, whenever you hear him speak, you feel like you've been impregnated with that nectar, not just very interesting, but you feel like it's really entering you. So knowing that Prabhupada engaged me in painting so many paintings for his books, he also engaged me in painting, just like Prabhupada first for his temple, same thing, first for his temple, and then also for his books. So some of the books outside are his translations of the Vedic literatures. And so and he asked me to do paintings like this and that, and yeah, various ones to go inside his books and also outside his books.
So when you were in India, you had a lot of new inspiration, new influences. Yesterday, one of the presenters, Vishnupriya Goswami from Vrindavan, she shared some beautiful images of the traditional dance drama tradition from Vrindavan. So I was wondering,
if anybody's way, way in the back, and you'd like to come way, way in the front,
there's seats here,
there
yes.
are seats.
Actually, here's one, and there's a few in the middle. There are also the back rows. Okay. So, when you were living in India, I was wondering, did you have any experience with those dance drama troupes, and did the atmosphere or the dances influence your art at all?
Yes, thank you for asking that. I did go to a few dramas where usually the dramatists, the actors, were young, like 10, 12, 14, and they sang so beautifully, so grudgy, I don't know how to say it, and I would just say it, the ancient Indian traditional tunes, and it would be like, they would be musicals, and then there was always a beautiful harmonium player and singer, and the whole thing was completely enchanting, and I got a lot of inspiration for the atmosphere that I was feeling around me in doing those paintings, as well as Manjari mentioned, I was also surrounded by the actual jewelry. Like when you go to a jewelry store and it's all Western jewelry, but there in the Holy Land of Vrindavan, it was all the ancient traditional jewelry designs that they wore thousands of years ago, that Krishna himself dressed himself in. So that was a majorly big inspiration as well. And just being in the land of Krishna with the cows and the peacocks and the parrots were all inspirational.
So, can you speak to why is it that originally Srila Prabhupada, your guru, why is it that he wanted to establish this new art form? Why didn't he just use the traditional Indian art that was already existing? What can you say about his vision and establishing this new genre?
Good. So, number one, there generally wasn't Indian paintings that would fill all of his books. There was one company, I won't mention the name, but one company, publishers of Indian ancient texts, and they had their pictures, but all of their translations and commentaries were impersonal. Means that they would twist around the ancient language in their translations and commentaries to make it look like God has no form, no qualities, no sweetness, no mercy, no power, but he was an impersonal light, which turned into atheism, or as I was a victim of, as a teenager, growing up in the 60s, that I am God.
Everyone's God.
And everyone is God. In fact, when I first went up to Prabhupada's quarters behind his first temple, it was an initiation day. So there were flowers, flower vases all around, and they would throw these grains made, dipped in ghee, clarified butter, and an amazing aroma. And so those who were initiates, they would throw the grains into the little fire that they had. And everyone was bowing down. And because I was such an impersonalist, I thought everything is God, including the floor. So they were all bowing down to God, which was the floor on this occasion. Why did I mention that?
So we're talking about why create this new art? Why not use Indian
Right,
art?
so this publishing house, they had pictures, but we couldn't use the same pictures. We had to have new pictures. And most of the other Indian art was just a few little pastimes. But in these 70 volumes of Srila Prabhupada, it would need hundreds of paintings. So therefore he had to find artists to engage in making new paintings that weren't painted before.
Okay, so new subjects that had never been shown before in some cases, and in other cases because you're saying most of the Indian art was taking an atheistic approach
In an atheistic book.
in an atheistic book, whereas the books that our lineage was presenting were the theistic or devotional presentation of the knowledge. So, in your experience, what does Krishna art or Bhakti art communicate to people that words cannot?
All right, let me give a couple of examples that other people have told me. That happened just right here at MDC. It was the first night that Adriana Thompson, most of your beautiful, sweet, smart professor, organized these events. So in the first one, Agarabaja, who was one of the saffron-clad young men here, he's just outside, he brought a man over, a young man, who had met the devotees at what was that? Farmer's market. At a farmer's market in Coconut Grove. And he met Vasanti. Vasanti's right here with the camera. And she had spoken to him 2 years ago. And he brought his girlfriend. So he's telling me the story a couple of nights ago in that conference room. That I brought my girlfriend, Adriana, and as soon as she saw one of the small posters, which is, this is the original painting.
This one or that one? Oh, mine.
Yeah. So as soon as she saw this little 8x10 poster, tears started flowing from her eyes, and then she just burst out crying and ran away. And everyone was bewildered. So then she came back in 15 minutes and said, "Oh, these are so beautiful, like transported me to another world." And then we have our own MDC Bert here, who also takes pictures. What's your name?
Julia.
Huh?
Julia.
Julia. So there's another one also, his name is Bert. And he was here last night. Last morning, yesterday morning. He runs into eternity, I think it was. Yesterday morning we had the event. And then he said, from the first time I came into this gallery, I felt so peaceful. I felt like I was entering into a world of peace that I couldn't explain. So we find many people saying that. And because the books are recorded kirtan, as Manjari was mentioning yesterday, one of the books is all about Krishna's flute. So one of the verses was about how Krishna plays his flute in the forest, and everyone is attracted. The cows, the deer, the friends, everyone is enchanted. And so one of the verses in the book, she sang, together. Varaha vitam nata varavapu karnayo karnikaram vibradavasam kanakakavisham vaijayanti shamalam Rampranamenoravasusaya apurayana gopavindai vrindaranya swayaramanam that Krishna is roaming through the forest with his cowherd friends, and he wears a beautiful 5-colored garland that goes all the way down to his knees, and he wears beautiful ornaments, and he wears a flower, a yellow carnicor flower on his ears, and he has a peacock feather in his crown, and the cowherd boys are all singing his glories, and his flute majestically play as his fingers wander along them. So this is kirtan of the pastimes of Krishna, and then that kirtan became a book, and then the book again becomes the art. So the art is also visual kirtan, just like the books are recorded kirtan. So the benefit of the books comes into the pictures. And as we say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So once you know the story, or the history, or the analogy, the philosophy, then you just get absorbed in that as you look at the picture. As I mentioned, Srila Prabhupada said, pictures are windows to the spiritual world. And everybody gets to know what God looks like.
So we want to get to some questions from the audience, but first, can you hold that thought? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you for the conference. It's interesting. I would like to know about the if you have some school about you, or are you teaching that art?
What's your name?
Isabel.
So Isabel is asking, is there a school of art where we teach art? Well,
Painting, about your painting.
The paintings. So back in the day, when more and more new artists were coming to paint for Srila Prabhupada's books in temples, in those days, the older ones of us, would help the younger ones. And then whenever anybody would bring me their art, then I would always be happy to give them suggestions. I was going to have an online class on how to do these Krishna paintings, but because we never had a good videographer who would make it very interesting and then edit it, so it never actually got started. Yeah.
I would like to ask about Krishna. Yeah.
I forgot your name.
My name is Gulnara. I'm Middle Asian. I'm from Middle Asia. I would like ask about Krishna. What does Krishna say about life? after
Yes?
this, yeah, this. That's correctly, yeah?
Very
What's,
good.
yeah.
So, I don't know if we have a painting here, but we have a poster. But I was just getting it. We have a poster of a painting that I made back in, say, 1980, 81, and it's called The Cycle of Birth and Death. There's also several paintings in the Bhagavad Gita which shows the science of reincarnation. That this is just one of, I could say if this is stereo, innumerable births that we've had. Sometimes as a human and sometimes in other species. What determines where we go after death is what we're doing in this life, what we're thinking about, how our mentality is. I'll just give you one analogy. We have the new Bhagavad Gita that has well, you asked for it, the 4 faces.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so it has 4 faces of what's called karma. Karma means as you sow, so shall you reap. Or whatever you do, you get a reaction to that. You know, you kill somebody and then they put you in jail.
Okay.
Right? So if you do something good, then they'll give you a bonus or you get promoted to the next higher class. Oh, we have the art book here. This is an art book of about 300 of my paintings. Yeah. So here, this lady, she has a human body, a human face, but her consciousness is like that of a tree. A tree stands naked for hundreds of years without any problem. But ladies aren't meant to stand naked in public, even though they come close to it these days at the beach. So she's posing for a nudie magazine in a very interesting pose. And in her next life, she gets the same pose as a tree. Or the man next to her, he has a human man's body, but he has the consciousness of a tiger because he just loves to barbecue and eat all kinds of things that are not meant for human consumption. So you can see he's at his barbecue, and then his next life, Krishna says, well, why work at a hard job for 9 to 5, and then finally you get a paycheck on Friday, and then you go to the supermarket and go to the frozen meat section, and then you get your meat that way, and then you have to go home and cook it and all that. Why don't you just live in the forest as a lion or a tiger and just grab your zebra and have fun? This is the cycle of birth and death. Yeah, this is the painting. From the lower species and then to human. Oh yeah, and then on top we see kind of transmigrating from babyhood to childhood to youth to old age and then death. And that happens repeatedly according to our conceptions at the time of death. The lady is birth, the man is death, you know, he looks like a skeleton. She's birth, and then you see that 8? It's a lying down 8. So that's a traditional infinity sign. And so for, yeah, so that's a cycle. And then there's so many dots in there. Those are different planets in the universe. So the main thing Manju just said is, how do we break the cycle? Because we don't want to just keep going in the cycle. So how to break the cycle is very simple. The method for God realization and self-realization in this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, both Kali Yuga, is simply the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. It's not necessary that you have to come to an event, although this is how a lot of us get started. But you can chant in your house, while you're cooking, cleaning, with your family members, bring over some friends. You can learn how to play the kartals. Very simple, only 3 words. Hare, which means the pleasure energy of God. Krishna, which means the reservoir of all pleasure. And Rama, which means the highest eternal pleasure. And they're arranged by our sages in to become 16 words. As Manjari mentioned, Hare Krishna, in 4 pairs, 8 pairs, right. And so another thing is reading the books. That immediately changes our consciousness, elevates it to demigod consciousness. And another thing is, in a little while we'll be taking some dinner. Well, first we'll be having popcorn prashadam.
No, we won't.
We won't.
We already distributed it. So we're going to have samosas during.
You didn't already distribute it.
Yes, we did.
There were passerbys.
Oh, passerbys. All right, well, if you come to our center, we'll give you all some. But now we have samosas, which is an Indian treat, savory treat. And it's rolled at the end. And then, what else do we have now? Alava. Alava is a sweet. Huh? And now we're going to show the movie. Do we want to encourage everyone to take
Before the question and answers?
on a row? Are we are? How about if we show the movie and then ask more questions?
All right, but
You can distribute the prashadam while they're watching the video or after?
after.
After.
So you mentioned about the cycle of karma and the cycle of birth and death going on in this loop, and then how to break the cycle with connecting with God through the Maha Mantra. So before we move on, I thought if you could tell more about one of the paintings here, the Bhagavad Gita painting in the back, where that is detailed, more detailed information is given. So a little bit about the story of this battlefield scene.
Well, I don't think it's very easily seen. Would everybody like to just rush over there with me and stand right here?
Yeah, let's stand and pray. Yeah, let's move.
Okay, so here.
Ella les quiere mostrar esa pintura. Si no les importa, nos movemos un poco para allá y escuchamos si quieres hacerme la pregunta. Lo que ella quiso movilizarse con todos para allá para explicarles el detalle de esa gran pintura que está allá.
Yashoda, come here too.
So this is Krishna. This is his princely. And this is his dear cousin brother, Arjuna, who's also one of his very close friends. And this is one of the ancient Indian traditional chariots. Now Krishna's horses are not from this world, they're from that spiritual world. So therefore they have blue, like Krishna, inside their ears. Now Krishna's having a half-hour conversation with Arjuna. I'll tell you about it in a minute. And these horses, who our spiritual master Srila Narayan Goswami Maharaj actually posed for, he became cross-eyed and made his mouth go like that. He had to do it a few times, unfortunately, before I got it. And his hands up, and they're saying, Krishna, we're ready to go. And so in the meantime, Krishna is speaking with Arjuna, because Arjuna and his wolves, Arjuna and his 4 brothers are the rightful heirs of the kingdom, which has its capital near Delhi. And so they have some relatives who are very evil, 100 brothers together. They're very evil, and by very cheating means, vicious means, they stole the whole kingdom from Arjuna and his brothers. And then Krishna, because Arjuna is a warrior, he can only do warrior things, like lead, like rule. So Krishna went to the leader of the opposing evil party, and he said, look, just give the Pandavas, the 5 Pandavas, just one little village each to rule. And then that evil person said, a village, I'm not going to give them enough land that fits on the head of a pin. So then Krishna said, then there must be a war. So that was a civil war, but with millions and millions of warriors. So here, Arjuna asked Krishna, please bring my chariot, because it hadn't really hit him yet, who's on the other side. Please bring my chariot in the midst of the 2 armies, so I can see who I'm supposed to fight. So Krishna's pointing them out, not in this moment, pointing them out. And because he's God, because they're evil, they have to be destroyed. Krishna comes in different ages to protect the good and destroy the evil. So just by him pointing them out, that was the end of them. They had to be destroyed in the war. But then Arjuna, he got all sentimental seeing his relatives. He said, I can't fight. How can I enjoy the spoils when my relatives are standing before me? And Krishna told him that whoever dies on this battlefield, because he's seeing me at the time of the war and the time of death, they're all going to heavenly planets. So don't worry. And the main thing is, we're not these bodies. Just as a child, what he's saying now, just as a soul, we're not these bodies, we're soul. And these are like dresses. If I had my sweater, it's like the shirt. My sweater is like the gross covering, and my shirt is like the mind. We have the mind covering the soul, which carries us right here and there, and then the gross body covers that, and then the senses carry me away. So, just as the soul continually passes in this body from childhood to youth to old age, similarly, the mental conception, the mind's activities at the time of death takes us into another body. Whatever you think about, he's saying, at the time of death, you go there without fail. And anyone who thinks of me at that time, he comes to me and enjoys eternal life, full of bliss and full of knowledge. And at that time, they forget that I'm God, but they think of me as their son or their friend or their beloved, with very beautiful relationships. And because he is God, we're going to be full of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. So now we can go back to our seats. Yeah.
Is that Hanuman?
Oh yes, thank you. So Hanuman, the great devotee of Lord Ram, he's sitting, not just by picture, but by real. He's sitting on the flag to give more strength to them, to give help. I'll fight too. And just like my spiritual master, Srila Narayana Goswami Maharaj, posed for the club with the ball part of the club down. Okay, so that's that. So now let's go back to our seats.
So you have a short video to share. You can take your seats.
And we can turn our seats this way. My name is
Vamos a ver el video, pueden mover la silla para ver la presentación. Y si alguien tiene alguna pregunta o algún comentario, también podemos tomarlo ahora. ¿Alguna duda?
¿Qué significan las pinturas?
Hicieron una pregunta.
There is one open question. Oh. Alguien preguntó cuántas pinturas ha hecho y si aún continúa pintando.
I think like Mercy of Prabhupada converted on any credit, as it says on the wall, it's just a paintbrush and a free point that, and by their inspiration everything happened. I think I mentioned earlier that, about 300 paintings. I think I mentioned earlier that the second artist who joined, he said, I'm going to keep painting like me. So Prabhupada put his arm up in the air, and he said, I have to learn how to paint. And then he said, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. By chanting Hare Krishna.
Entonces, ha pintado más o menos 300 pinturas, pero no por su... Ella no va a tomar ningún crédito, todo ha sido la inspiración de sus maestros. Y ella recuerda que cuando vino el segundo artista que se unió a este movimiento, Prabhupada dijo, yo le he enseñado a ella cómo pintar. Y levantó su mano como moviendo pinceladas y dijo, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Queriendo decir que el mantra le inspiró para hacer toda esta cantidad de pinturas.
And that's true for everybody. Everybody's now gets protected by chanting, whatever your talent.
Así que el talento de cualquiera se puede perfeccionar si cantamos este mantra, repetimos esta oración.
Hare Krishna.
My name is Shamrani Dasi. Dasi means servant. So my name means that I'm a servant of Shamarani, the feminine counterpart of the Supreme Truth Krishna. Before I discovered Krishna consciousness, I was a normal, everyday New Yorker. I had never heard of Krishna consciousness before. When I was 19, I met my spiritual master, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. I left the house in the Bronx, Upper Bronx, and was on my way to a friend's house, and I heard bongo drums and cymbals, but there was something very mystical that day about the music. So I went further into it, and I saw Prabhupada sitting in the middle of an Indian rug, and his disciples, he had about 10 disciples with him, dancing around him on the rug like this. My first impression was that he looks like a genie, flying in on a magic carpet. And then when they packed up, rolled up their rug and left, I was just standing there starry-eyed, not knowing what to do or where to go. Some strange man came up to me and said, "Would you like to go to the temple?" I said, "Sure," without knowing what that was.
And without even a devotee, and nobody can be intimately related with Krishna.
Just after about a month or so, after I joined, one of the monks came down and said, "The Swami wants to know what your talent is." So I always liked art since I was a kid, and I would draw all kinds of crazy drawings when I was a kid. So I said, "Well, I guess my talent is art." So then he told Prabhupada, and then Prabhupada immediately called me to his quarters and gave me a picture of a chanting party. Prabhupada asked me to make a large copy for the temple walls. I was so honored. So my main services were painting, and first decorating his temples with different pastimes of Krishna at different ages. And then in 1969, he began engaging me in painting for his books. So before the books were printed, he would dictate the book on a dictaphone machine and then mail me the dictaphone tapes so that I could hear what was going to be in the book at the very beginning, so that at first he picked out the pictures for the books, and then he said, "Okay, now you can pick them out." And a few other artists joined, and we acted as a team, each with our own paintings. Sometimes we shared working on a painting together. During the course of my painting for Srila Prabhupada, I received 90 letters from Srila Prabhupada answering our questions. One of the pictures that I received a lot of guidance for was one of my early paintings of Krishna's half lion, half man incarnation, Lord Nrsimhadev, ripping apart the evil father of a 5-year-old saint named Prahlad. The picture was so small that I couldn't see details. So Srila Prabhupada personally posed for Lord Nrsimhadev, like this. And he crossed his eyes, and as you all know, it hurts a lot to cross the eyes, but he did it anyway. When the picture was almost all done, he saw that I had a few drops of blood in the painting. So he said, "Few drops, better to have blood everywhere, because if God is not ferocious, then where does ferocity come from?" And then at the very end, as I mentioned, because the picture was so small, he was sitting on a rug, and it was an Indian rug, but with 0 details. So I remembered that there was another Indian picture on his wall, like to his right and up there on his wall, where he would sit and do his translation work. So I went in that room, which was just right next to the room where I painted. And I was kind of jumping up and down and trying to see. So he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm trying to see the picture, but I don't want to step on your bed." He was so humble, he just slept on a second-hand mat. So then he said, "In Krishna's service, you can step on my head," showing, immaculately the pure devotee's humility. In 1977, Srila Prabhupada left the vision of the mortal world, thus leaving his followers in an ocean of grief. But then, in 1981, I knew there had to be other pure devotees in the world, because he already said that in his books. But then I was thinking, but that person has to know Prabhupada. So then in 1992, I met Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, a guide sister of mine in 92, just knocked on my door one day and asked, would you like to meet a great self-realized soul? And I said, oh, sure, not knowing what to expect. And there he was, sitting there, surrounded by devotees of our institution. So one reason that I surrendered all my energy and heart to Srila Gurudev was because I saw him as a manifestation of Srila Prabhupada's mercy. Besides the fact that he knew Srila Prabhupada since 1946, and he's the one who inspired Prabhupada to Prabhupada to take sannyas, take the renounced stroke of life and go to the West to preach. And the main thing is that he is putting a spotlight on the depth of Srila Prabhupada's books, and he gave us the key to unlock the treasure chest of Prabhupada's books.
I know that only the meaning of Krishna is Prajandanandan, Yashodanandan, Shyamsundar, Radha, Kanta, Radha, only this, nothing else.
In order to understand the books and the teachings of a completely pure, self-realized soul, one needs the help of another self-realized soul of his caliber, which my full conviction was and is that he has that capacity. He started engaging me in continuing the service that I was doing for Prabhupada, that is painting pictures for his temples, and then gradually, as more of his books were coming out, painting for his books.
Okay. She said that usually you tell her what to paint. So she feels it is your heart. But for this painting, you didn't say which pastime. So she said she's not feeling like it is your heart. She doesn't know if it's really what you want.
I told all goods to her. And according to my good sila.
Counting the time that I was painting for Srila Prabhupada, counting the time that I was painting for Srila Gurudev, counting the paintings in bas-reliefs that I did with team members, I would say the whole thing came to a total of almost 400 works of art. I could feel, at least in my neophyte way, that wow, I'm painting a transcendental personality, just touching the canvas, I'm touching his body and the body of his pure devotees. It was an experience that I don't know if I could put words to. I don't know if there are words to it, but it was a non-earthly feeling like touching a divine person.
This art is created as an act of loving devotional service. It's meant for worship. It's meant to be a part of the process of bhakti yoga. So it's not created with any kind of intention of monetary benefit or seeking fame as an artist or even self-expression as an artist. It's completely done with the aspiration of becoming a vessel, a channel for self-realization, for pure love to transmit through the canvas the pure vibration of the spiritual world to anyone who sees it. It doesn't require any prior base of knowledge or cultural context.
And now I've almost completed my final painting called Kunja Kirtan. I don't have time to do another painting after this, so this is my final. And because it's the final, I'm throwing a lot of heart and energy into it, a lot of details. There's a saying by some famous artist, life is short and art is long. So I've been working on this on and off, of course, since 2010. When I'm in the middle of a painting, and then I'm I have a deadline for that day. Okay, I'm going to do 2 bracelets, 3 arms, 1 eye, and then I'm able to do it. This is going to take me a half hour, this is going to take me an hour. But with this, it's absolutely zero control. So I know that they're coming, the personalities in the painting are coming when they want to come, how they want to come, and it has nothing to do with my endeavor. Every single stroke, I have to just say it's up to you. And if I don't, if I try to be the doer, then nothing happens. But the subject matter of this painting is very interesting. It's a manifestation, a window to the spiritual world, Srila Prabhupada called it, of singing and dancing and playing musical instruments, and the glorification of Krishna. Radharani is in the center. Her friends are all called gopis, or cowherd girls, and Krishna is there, sitting at her feet, totally enthralled with the music. And with her, seems to be a re-explosion of the Krishna consciousness movement now, with the extreme popularity of kirtan, singing of Krishna's holy names. And this painting shows the origin of all of that singing and dancing and playing musical instruments. Srila Prabhupada told me right at the beginning, Krishna's philosophy must be illustrated, but it must be according to the succession of teachers and scriptures coming from Krishna for thousands of years with no change. Just like the philosophy can't have change in order to be powerful, so similarly art has to feel exactly the philosophy. The aim of the paintings is so that when people see them, their consciousness will transform and they will become devotees of the Lord. That is our aim. Prabhupada said that he wants the paintings to support the society.
So because of these pure and selfless loving intentions that are behind the creation of the art, it's actually priceless.
The profits all go to distribute free books in needy areas. Srila Prabhupada told me right at the beginning, this art will be like the rain after the drought of mundane art, and everyone will be attracted.
So now we have a few minutes before dinner, and we'd love to open up the floor for more questions. And Yashoda is also here to help with any clarification. So I'll walk with the mic. Any questions starting here? Yes.
Hare Krishna. My question is, do you have a favorite? Is it possible to say you have a favorite? And I know the last piece you said was the mood and the heart of food. Is there a particular one that you would say is your heart?
Usually I can't control myself and I feel a long time to answer anything. This time I can always say no.
No.
Sometimes I want to say whatever flows at the moment.
So no favorites. All your children are equal favorites. Okay.
Algunas veces una, otras veces otra. Ella tiene una tendencia a hablar mucho, pero la respuesta a esta pregunta es no. A veces cambia.
Question, Vasanti.
I know I've asked you this before, but on this painting of Radha, and she has her then you can see it like repeated above. Why is that? Oh,
or Krishna. She's not in the way, is she? No.
A little bit in the way. Here, hold this closely.
All right, so Radharani is thinking that I was supposed to meet Krishna out here in the forest, but he didn't come. Or another could be Krishna was here and he wanted to be with me and I turned him away because I was upset. Either way, he's not here now. And so now there's no more beautiful girl in existence than Radha, because she's God's feminine counterpart. So as he's all beautiful, all the beauty together is everybody else has a little piece. So as he's all beautiful, she is also, except she's more beautiful than he is. But she's thinking, what is the use of my beauty, youthful beauty? What is the use of my ornaments or my beautiful garments if Krishna is not here to see them? So, we talked about a disciple succession of the knowledge coming down from master to disciple and so on since the beginning of time. But what about Krishna? He also has a guru, and his guru is Radharani, and she's his prem guru, or his guru who teaches him the art of love. And she also teaches everyone the art of love. And she's his potency of love. And so she teaches us here that anything that we want to do or be or become is of no value without it being done for the pleasure of the Lord, in order to have an intimate relationship with him and help all of his sons and daughters, the spirit souls, who are in the ocean of grief. So we want to ultimately have that same mentality. So we take shelter of her, and by the chanting and the books and studying her, we get also to have that supreme understanding. Because what's the use of anything if you're just going to grow old and then get sick and then die? And life is just like, it's like a bubble in the ocean. Comes up, looks great, sparkles, and then disappears. So we want that eternal life full of bliss and knowledge. She's our supreme guru.
Another question?
Oh, wait, I didn't even answer her
That's
question.
okay.
Just really quick. Sorry, the waves. So she's lamenting like that. And this is a lake called Radharani, a pond that's made out of her melted heart in love with Krishna. So now she's lamenting. So all the waves are imitating her moves. And this tika, it's called, is also here because the tika is also part of the pond, and it's just the image of her, just a manifestation of her. Yes, anyone else?
What does skin on forehead?
Yes.
What does it mean on forehead?
On our part?
Yeah.
Yeah, on our forehead, we have tila. Where's the, it's not very light, so it's this one. I mean, where's the See, the pure devotee, they have no interest in satisfying themselves. They only want to satisfy the Lord, and by that, they get a million times more satisfied. For me, I say, where's the camera? Okay. The tilak, yes. So Krishna wears tilak, his associates wear tilak, we also wear tilak. For them, it's a decoration to attract. And for us, it's a sign of devotion. You can see Prabhupada has tilak, Gurudev has tilak, the devotees here have tilak.
So tilak is a sign of devotion to Krishna, and it gives us protection. We put the tilak on 12 places, and there's 12 directions: north, east, south, west, northwest, northeast, southwest, and so on. 12 directions. So we have tilak on 12 parts of our body. So it gives us protection against the illusory energy which wants to pull our consciousness down. Also, anybody who sees us, who has any awareness of what it is, or even wants to know what it is, then they know where to come to ask about Krishna, identification.
Okay, thank you. Good question.
We have
I
time
have
for
a lot of questions.
so many questions.
Well,
Well, we can.
I'd like to know about. I'm Muslim. Yeah, I'm from Muslim country, so I would like to know, woman and man in the Krishna the same position, or what is it? Or they have different man and woman? Who is the first?
So in the philosophy, Vedic philosophy.
Yeah.
In Vedic philosophy, starting from Radha and Krishna, then their expansions, Sita Ram, Lakshmi Narayan, the feminine counterpart is the power, and Krishna is the powerful. Like Krishna is the sun, like, the sun, and then Radharani, analogously, would be the sunshine. There's no meaning without the sun, no meaning for the sun if it didn't have sunshine. There's no meaning to the sunshine if it didn't have the sun. So they're both like one and different simultaneously. So for us down here on earth, according to Vedic culture, I know in some cultures the women are very disrespected, but in Vedic culture, the woman is very respected and cherished. She's considered the better half of the husband. Now, of course, in conditioned life, nobody's acting in their true dharma or their true spiritual nature. So everything is kind of helter-skelter. And and so a lot of countries I know, women are exploited, and if they show their heads, sometimes they get tortured or killed. But so why do we, the ladies are all covered, as you can see, and covered for chastity. It also gives power. Covering in this chastity gives power, because if a man looks lustily at a lady, this could pull her power away. So she protects herself like that and shows that, I'm Krishna's, or I'm chaste to the Lord, or I'm chaste to my husband. Like that. That answer the question? So they're really, like you can see in our movement, everyone is equal, and everyone gets positions according to their capacity and talent. Like, go ahead, keep posing. Like Subal, he's a photographer. That's his talent. So he's trying to make a book of pictures of the Holy Land, Krishna's Holy Land, and takes pictures of our events and things like that. So everybody has different talents. It doesn't matter whether someone is a lady or a man, black or white, Muslim background or Hindu background or Jewish background. Everyone, according to their sincerity, talent, skill, gets engaged by Sri Guru or oneself if you don't have Guru. Does that help?
Yeah. Thank you.
Jorge.
Why does evil exists.
Why do people exist?
No, evil.
Or evil?
Yes.
I could have answered both. Why do people exist is because, I know, I just want to answer that one first. Man is made in the image of God, as the Christian philosophy teaches. So Krishna is a loving father, and he creates all the living beings in order to have a loving relationship, especially people, meaning humans. This is the form in which we can understand who am I, what is God, and what is our relationship. Why does evil exist? Because, well, Srila Prabhupada first answered it very simply, because we want it. As soon as we turn against God, then we're in it's like my hand. My hand is facing the light of the room, and it's all lit up. When it turns away from the light, you can see it's in the darkness. So as soon as we turn away from God, then we come into various kinds of darkness. And that produces the evil.
So free will.
Yeah, we have free will. We choose to go up or down. Now it's a quarter after 8. So now we'll be having a second kirtan. And we're calling up, where is he? These are supersonic everything. The most unique part is that he plays viola, Krishna viola. So do you mind playing that in the second kirtan? Okay, so do you remember that when you and Manjari, in her last visit, and you did a performance, sometimes the viola played with the singing, and sometimes it did its solos.
Okay.
So would you like to
Sure.
spontaneously get into that? It's the same you and Manjari, and we'll be singing along. And then Manjari will play the mridanga, or Sudevi can play the harmonium. And Gadapa can play the mridanga. Do you want to play, or would you prefer mridanga? So they're going to be doing kirtan around 10 or 15 minutes. About 10 or 15 minutes. will distribute the evening meal. Hare Hare
So it's dinner time, Haribo! So,
So we have beautiful traditional Indian samosas with some sauce, chutney, ready outside. Raga Manjari here is going to pass them out. And we have some beautiful books and art. They're all donation bases. So anything that you would like that speaks